Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about the thousands and thousands of tires illegally dumped on an unsuspecting property owner and Portland police's troubling response times. Plus, we're digging into Oregon's surprisingly competitive governor's race. I'm your host, Claudia Meza. Joining me today are the founder of Stumptown Savings, your friendly food economy newsletter, Brian M. Vance, and our very own senior producer, Rachel Monahan. How's it going, guys?
Hey.
Hey, Claudia.
Hello.
It's good to be back.
Brian, it's always good to be back. Could you imagine? You're like, ugh, this again.
I hate that. No.
Well, as everybody knows, usually I kick things off with an opening question so anyone new to the show can get to know our guests a little better. And today's is based on the crazy story reported by K2 where a Portlander woke up to find 50 to 75,000 tires illegally dumped on his property. So here's the story. This past February, Contran bought like a 1.2 acre property near Southeast 154th Avenue and Powell Boulevard. I don't know where that is.
It's far East Portland. Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of big trees, no real sidewalks.
And that's why he bought it. He was just like, it's a beautiful property. He basically said it was his dream property. And with a newborn on the way, he imagined this was going to be the perfect location to build his forever home. And he bought this back in February. And at that purchase time, he already saw a small tire pile, on the land. And he shook hands with the then owner and was like, that's fine. I can get rid of these 40 or so tires. No problem. He returned in March. Small pile, still the same. But when he returned in June, you guys, it had ballooned to thousands and thousands of tires. It's suspected that the problem is coming from tire shops who are outsourcing disposal to unlicensed haulers who then promise to recycle the tires, but then just dump them on Tran's property instead. Tran also found by one entrance that the tires have been stacked to create a makeshift room complete with table and chairs. So it's also suspected that at least one person was illegally living on the property among the tires. Anyhow, Metro, that's the regional government agency that manages waste in the Portland area, if you don't know, they say that illegal tire dumping has spiked this year. And a representative for Metro said that from July through June, that they've cleaned up over 15,000 tires, finding more than 1,200 tires dumped in one location. Possibly trans. What's also messed up is that Metro unfortunately can't remove the tires for trans since the agency is publicly funded and only do that for publicly funded lands, and his tires are on his private property. But Metro is supposedly working with like the Multnomah County Sheriff and the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality to investigate who has been illegally dumping tires on his property. Not sure if they're going to pay for any of that. But dig this, though. At the time of the publication, Metro was still deciding if they were going to pass along fines to Tran. Because even though it's not his fault, all these tires were dumped on his property, it's still his property. And having that many tires puts him out of compliance.
Oh, man.
I know. That would be some top-level, soulless bureaucrating right there if that happened.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Tran has started an online fundraiser to help pay for the tire removal. We're going to link to the story in the show notes. So you can find all that through there. And through all of this, he stayed remarkably positive, telling OPB, anything can be fixed, anything can be beautiful. You just have to put some, care into it. That would not be my attitude. I need everybody to know, especially with Metro being like, we might find you. I'd be like, everyone is going to be set on fire.
Exactly. Scorched earth. That would be my response.
I know, exactly.
Including the tires.
Exactly. I'm just like, let's make this Simpson episode a reality because this is what's happening. All of this brings me to my opening question. What would be the best item to have illegally dumped on your property? I mean, aside from like piles of cash and like Visa gift cards.
Yeah, that's where my mind went. Like, piles of diamonds or gold or
bank robbery, just.
Yeah, or like, valuable substances, saffron worth its weight in more than gold kind of thing. But here's where I went. Like, I tried to stay in the spirit of the question, something that could actually be dumped on property. And I decided my get rich quick scheme related to this was I wanted a bunch of boulders dumped on my property. Because do you remember all those stories about ODOT putting boulders in places to...
They spent a ton of money. Yeah.
Yeah, like they were spending like $1 million on these projects to put boulders in so that no one would camp on ODOT property. So this is my get rich quick scheme. A bunch of boulders on my property.
Farm.
Yeah, a boulder farm.
Are you going to sell it to ODOT?
Yes, exactly. Which will definitely take the boulders from me as I'm describing this project.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. What about you, Brian?
So because I'm not busy enough, I started another side business, restoring cast iron. So I would love for people to just dump dirty, rusty cast iron cookware in my yard. It'd be a dream come true, honestly. I will give you my address. Just dump it right in my front yard. I will happily take it off your hands and return it to beautiful cooking glory.
Where do you live again? Just
Montebello.
Yeah, hit Brian up on social if you actually want to get rid of your...
Yeah, but in all seriousness, I will take your pants.
Okay. Well, thank you both for your answers. Real quick, before we break, we're doing our annual listener survey, and it would really help us out if you took it. We want to learn more about you and what you want from the show so we can better serve you and the city. If you took it last year, we need you to take it again because so much changes in a year. It's also only 7 minutes long. Somebody timed it. Head over to citycast.fm/survey. Oh, and when you take the survey, you'll also be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card as well as CityCast Portland merch. Again, that's citycast.fm/survey. All right, when we get back from break, we're going to be looking into Portland police wait times. We're in peak berry season, and Grand Central Bakery, on top of their delicious hand pies and muffins, is debuting their brown butter almond tart with fresh strawberries, which sounds delicious. It has a butterscotchy shortbread base with rich almond cream baked into the crust and is topped with sweet local berries. They're sourcing them from Unger Farms, a fourth-generation family farm in Washington County, and the wheat for the flour is from Chimacum Valley Granary, which uses regenerative practices promoting healthy soil. All of their baking is, of course, done in-house, and Grand Central Bakery has been operating locally and independently since 1989. That's longer than our senior producer, Julia Fiaioni, has been alive. Now, you know we don't get to decide when the berry season ends, so you're going to want to try these tarts soon before they're gone. You can order online at grandcentralbakery.com or in person at any of their 8 neighborhood locations. Brian, there have been a couple of high-profile stories in the news this past week of Portlanders having to take matters into their own hands, stopping crimes, apprehending suspects as they waited for police to show up. There was like an assault in one and a possible kidnapping in another. What's going on with the police?
Yeah, so police wait times, like the amount of time it takes for police to respond for high priority calls in Portland is insane. I think that's a clear technical term here. A new study conducted by a University of Portland physics and music student, I just love that combination, found that last year it took about 19 and a half to 21 and a half minutes on average for police to respond to high priority. These are life-threatening or, risk of serious injury calls. Took that long on average to get there. And I should say, this story comes from some reporting by Anusha Fothapuri and Mark Friesen at the Oregonian. They looked into this data because this is insane. I mean, it's over 50,000 911 calls that this student, Layla Decker, looked into, all publicly available data, and found, that average time. But here's the part that gets really frustrating. Let's take our person from the opening question, Claudia, Tran. Say that someone breaks into his property and is threatening him or his family. If he called 911, he might have to wait more than 40 minutes for the police to show up. In outer East Portland, those times dramatically increase. So that 19 to 25 minutes is the average. If you're in the Central East Side, it's about 12 to 14. That's still higher than what the police bureau has set as their goal, but it's, it's not horrendous. The further you get out, it increases.
I can confirm that. Yeah.
Which makes no sense because there's police departments scattered throughout the city, but yeah.
Yeah. No, in St. John's, business owners, basically, they've told me like, we just stopped.
You hear these anecdotes all the time of people calling the cops and maybe not even for serious stuff, like maybe it's not that anyone's at risk of being shot or killed or anything, but like someone broke in and stole something in the middle of the night, they're long gone, and police, they'll call, and if police even do show up, it's a long time later. Like this is an ongoing issue in Portland, but now we actually have data. It's one thing to have anecdotes, it's another thing to have the actual numbers. And keep in mind, this is happening at the same time as our 911 hold times have dramatically decreased. So I have called 911 several times in the past few years because of various incidents happening. Like I was at Washington Park once when someone dropped and seemed to be having a stroke, called 911, sat on hold for several minutes. That was the norm at one point in time. They've gotten it down to about 18 seconds on average. So they're getting those calls fast. The backlog is now happening on the police side. It's from the time when a dispatcher takes the call to when a police officer arrives on scene. It has just increased dramatically in recent years. The police bureau is saying that it's a staffing issue, that there's just not enough armed officers. They point to studies that show that Portland has fewer police per 1,000 residents than most other major cities in America. But, there are other people making arguments that it's not necessarily a staffing issue. It could be, some of these same issues could be solved by better funding Portland street response so that you have more armed officers freed up to respond to serious incidents and not respond to lower level. Because that's basically the argument that the police union is saying, is that because they don't have enough officers, that means armed officers are tied up responding to all kinds of calls, not just these high level ones. So when a high level one comes in, there's already a backlog of calls. And so it's just driving up the time of everything. I'm curious, have either of you called 911 in the past few years? Have either of you had to deal with a police response? Claudia, you're obviously hearing from business owners, but what are you seeing? We all live in different parts of the city. I'm curious, what are you actually seeing on the ground, and how have you seen response times play out in your neighborhood?
Well, with St. John's, literally the last time I called was because somebody appeared to be having a crisis, kitty corner to my house. And the fire department responded because we thankfully have a fire station. And they were the first people on the scene and they took care of it. There were no police.
Right.
But I have noticed an increase of patrols. I've noticed more police cars in our neighborhood, which is interesting. So I don't know what's going on there, but I still hear from, business owners in particular that they're not happy with response times. What about you, Rachel?
Well, I'm not sure that my personal experience is that helpful to moving the conversation forward, but I found the stories that have been reported lately pretty striking. The women who were attacked this spring in a park in Council Crest and were waiting for police response and took matters into their own hands to basically join together. I mean, a bunch of women were attacked and a bunch of women fought back together. And while, that was a deeply troubling story of slow police response, I really wonder what else the police were doing at that moment that wasn't a priority. That's not something the reporter could tell us.
Right. They couldn't actually dive into that. But
yeah. And then similarly with this attempted kidnapping over the weekend.
So scary. Yeah.
Yeah. But the person was naked. I just wonder what is going on there that also would not result in a quick police response, no matter what else is going on. I wonder if the way that got reported to 911 didn't sound as serious as it was. Another crazy naked person on the Portland waterfront. Is that
Right.
like what was relayed to police? Like, because like I think an attempted kidnapping is something of a
That's high priority to me.
drop everything, go.
It was a child.
Yes.
What I did hear was that police were responding from the North Portland precinct to that call, which also makes no sense. So I am very curious as to like what was going on there. I will say though, to back up some of this data, police wait times are getting longer, even though like the overall call volume has declined by 27% since 2020. And still data showing that these high priority calls, the wait times have gotten worse. Portland for All, which is a progressive advocacy organization, has also noted that police staffing has been relatively stable since 2022. So they're just like, if you're saying this is a staffing issue, like, why is it getting worse?
Yeah, especially as call volumes are decreasing. Like,
Exactly.
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't.
Yeah, they also compared data of police response times to like Portland Fire and Rescue, which remember I was just like, hey,
Yeah, when you called, they showed up.
Portland Fire and Rescue seems to respond very quickly when it's something that they feel they can take on their own. And they found that the Fire Bureau had experienced a much less drastic increase in response time since 2019, which is like when everything kind of hit the fan, you know, as compared to the Police Bureau. This was interesting. I just got to note it. The Portland Police Association union president said this was like an unfair comparison because the fire department started requiring mandatory overtime from responders last year, meaning that every shift is always filled, while the police is commonly understaffed because there is no mandatory overtime from employees. And if you don't know what mandatory overtime is that means an employer requires you to work hours beyond your regular schedule if it's not staffed, like that schedule isn't staffed. And if you don't do it, you can get fired. That's how the fire department works.
That's how a lot of police departments around the country work.
Exactly. Which is like, it's like if you're like workers' right, that sucks. You know what I mean? But the reason why our police department doesn't work that way is because of the union. So that's why it's kind of funny when the union's like, that's not fair. And I'm like, well, it's because of you guys.
Negotiated that.
I mean, you know, like it's a little circular, you know what I mean? But I think all this, there's like just speculation that this is similar to when it was found that like the Portland police stopped enforcing traffic stops.
I was just going to bring that up.
I was going to add that like I found when Police Chief Day came on and talked to you, Claudia, about what had been going on, he talked about like police morale. He said, I think we're coming out of a time period where there was great hesitancy to really want to engage or feel like there was a desire for the community to even want us to be a part of these solutions. And I wonder if he would come on again and talk to you about what kind of morale issues are happening that could be impacting these response times again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the big thing. Like, Rachel, you hit on this, was like, there's still some serious questions that need answered. Like, why aren't officers dropping responses to low-level crimes and getting all hands on deck when there is a high-priority call? Like, if there's an attempted kidnapping of a minor ongoing right now, every officer in the vicinity should be showing up on scene. And they need to explain what is actually happening in these cases. How are they handling that? If morale's bad, that sucks, but that's not an excuse to not show up and not do your job, especially when your job is to protect people.
Can I give you the speculation here? You know, this isn't just like me saying this. This is like a lot of advocacy groups are wondering if this is at all related to the PSEF funding ballot. So, and again, there's no proof this is what's happening. The speculation is like similar to when the Portland police stopped enforcing traffic stops because morale, retaliation for supposedly getting defunded, all of that. They're wondering if police officers are dragging their feet on 911 calls to make sure that this funding ballot passes. And if you're just like, what funding ballot? There's a police union-backed ballot measure for the November 2026 election seeking to divert 25% of the Portland Clean Energy Fund to hire additional police officers. Yeah. The initiative would reallocate roughly like $50 million annually from the climate program for armed police personnel. Armed police personnel that would be responding to what? These higher profile calls. And so that is like crazy
it's
speculation.
playing out at the same time. Yeah.
But it's all happening at the same time when the numbers aren't really justifying the wait times. So that is the question that people are just like, numerically speaking, this doesn't make any sense. And why is all of a sudden this happening when this ballot is up? But here's the deal is that ultimately, when you do look at the numbers like nationally, we are understaffed.
Yeah, compared to comparable cities. Yeah.
They do need more personnel. But the thing is that we know that they have funding for more personnel. They're just not getting people in the door and trained because it takes a while.
Yeah,
so that's
it takes,
another
I think,
question.
18 months from the time you hire someone to the time they can actually respond to calls on their own as an armed police officer. Like, it's not as simple as slapping uniform on someone. And I think, multiple things can be true at the same time. I think the issue that we run into is, especially when unions are involved, the super powerful police union is involved, and when other very deeply rooted community organizations are involved, a certain narrative can be the only one that's true in their mind, and that's what gets pushed out. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. From the police union, the only thing that can be true right now is they don't have enough officers. It can't be true that there's a work stoppage or a work slowdown. It can't be true that they're just being inefficient. It can't be true that they're not prioritizing properly. From their mind, the only thing that can be true can be that they don't have enough officers. From other viewpoints, the only thing can be true is that they're not doing their job. Like, it's just not that simple. It's not that black and white. The reality is it's probably a mix of both, but there is a solution here. Like, I can't buy that the only solution is to drastically ramp up their funding by raiding a different public utility fund to pay to hire more officers when as Claudia pointed out, they already aren't hiring officers with the money they have. Like, we need to get a real creative solution here, and we need accountability, and we need answers. And frankly, like, the police chief owes the public real answers on a lot of this stuff.
Maybe we should have Chief Day back on.
I think he needs to come on.
Well, Brian, thank you for talking this through, helping us figure this out.
Getting everybody fired up and riled up.
Yeah, landing on the same conclusion. I think what's so funny is that we all had this in the back of our head, but didn't want to say it out loud. And now we're like, this is what's going on, but we just need to know. Yeah. But we don't know. But you're right. I love your point of view. Like, it's not this black and white. There's so much more going on.
It's not as simple.
Well, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, the governor race might be tighter than we think. Before Rachel breaks down the upcoming governor race, I wanted to mention that we're looking for recommendations for a local illustrator to work on an extra special paid project this fall. So we're just wondering, like, who are your favorite local illustrators? Let us know at portland@citycast.fm. We would love to hear from you. Again, that's portland@citycast.fm. Thanks so much, you guys. All right, Rachel, what's going on with our governor's race so far? Every year we hear it. Every year, this might be the year that we have a Republican governor. And I feel like it never happens.
Well, I think what I'm here to tell you about today is why you're going to see a lot more political advertising at the very least in the fall, and maybe even be solicited to donate to the governor's campaign.
Oh, gotcha. I see
this is according to some reporting from Carlos Fuentes at the Oregonian and Dirk Vanderhart at OPB. The governor's race is getting more competitive. Which is surprising if you think about the fact that Democrats have won the office every election for 4 decades. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are 2 bits of news from the last week or so. The first is that the Republican Christine Drazan had a poll conducted that showed her with a lead of 48-44 over the Democratic incumbent, Tina Kotek. True, that's still within the margin of error, but again, we're in a competitive race. 6% were undecided, 2% didn't answer. This is of 600 Oregon voters in late June answered questions from Public Opinion Strategies, which OPB describes as a well-regarded polling firm with ties to Republicans. So Drazan released this top-line finding of the poll. And, so the second piece of news is that 2 national nonpartisan organizations that track elections are saying this race is more competitive than expected. 10 days ago, Cook Political Report switched its rankings of the governor's race from solid Democrat to likely Democrat. That means Democrats still likely to win, but it's closer. So as I said, this is like about fundraising. I know Claudia's hot take on this is yawn, stop with this.
That's not my hot take.
It'll be Kotek again.
No, I hear what you're saying. You're basically saying, hey, you're going to get a lot of texts asking for funding because it's looking closer. It's not going to be a total slam dunk. And so, of course, the Democrats are going to be scrambling. I hear what you're saying. Just so you know, a hot take isn't a response from me being bored.
That's a mild take. Cool take.
Fair point, Claudia. So yeah, I mean, what's going on here is Drazen is looking for more money, and I think she's going to get it based on these numbers. I mean, I don't know if it'll impact how much, like, say, Nike founder Phil Knight donates to the race. He seems to be willing to spend millions, whether the Republican will win or not. You know, we've seen in past races.
He has plenty of money.
Yeah, plenty of money that he could dump on our lots to answer the first question. Yeah. So, but, you know, a race being more competitive means that more people are willing to donate to it. So it looks like you will be hearing more from them once they get that money to advertise in various media. Like, all your YouTube ads in the fall are going to be for the governor's race. I'm predicting that.
Okay.
So likely what you're going to be hearing is, like, the Democrats making the case that Trump is, like, the worst, and therefore you can't vote for anyone who supports Trump. And then Republicans are going to be making the case about, like, how people are frustrated with the rising costs of living, and they're going to blame that on Kotek rather than, say, Trump.
Yeah, because usually the governor has a big hand to do with inflation and all that.
Yeah, and gas prices.
Big role in international economics.
Yeah, that's all Kotek. Get us out of Iran, Kotek.
Kotek has terrible approval ratings, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, people are not happy with Kotek.
Yeah, she is in the bottom of the popularity contest among governors.
Can I give you an actual hot take as to why?
Yes, please.
I think she's been too middle of the road, so she's pissing everybody off.
Huh.
Yeah, she's not taking stances, and that irritates people.
Yeah. I think she's trying to play it safe, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, we're not in an environment where people really like moderates and like middle of the road, and she's kind of trying to play a little bit of both sides. I mean, that's not necessarily both sides of, like, MAGA and Democratic Socialists, but she's trying to be a more moderate Democrat, and that's, I think, like you said, pissing a lot of people off right now.
Yeah, also she's gotten gung-ho for a few projects and then walked them back, and it's like making her look kind of like that's weak leadership.
And she had a scandal with her wife.
Oh yeah, there was a scandal. What things are you thinking of her walking back?
I'm thinking about the data center. I'm thinking about her own proposal for fixing our roads.
Yeah, the gas tax.
Yeah.
Yes, the gas tax
got repealed.
And I'm also thinking about, I mean, especially what Brian said, it didn't just right off the gate, the whole thing with her wife and getting her a job. It just felt really weird.
Very high-paying job.
A very high-paying job. It just, all of that just felt icky, you know?
She's not doing herself any favors. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that scandal definitely didn't. And the gas tax was super unpopular, a complete faceplant from the Democrats. And I do think data centers are a really high-profile issue right now among voters, that she was on a side that's not particularly one she could stay on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's interesting. Well, we'll have to stay tuned. You know, you'll see more ads, and it's still likely the Democrat will win. That's my take.
I want a dark horse.
I just, when you look at what happened in the national election, when you look at what's happened in other elections, and you have a lot of people in these polls saying they're undecided, Drazen could slip in and win. You know, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be because people are really in love with her. It could just be because we live in a really messed up society right now.
I'm going to choose to ignore Brian. All right, let's...
That provocation that could keep us talking for the next 20 minutes.
I'm gonna choose to ignore Brian.
We gotta end it, yeah.
Brian, I love you. I'm just trying to keep my sanity here. I appreciate you both. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We will continue this conversation and others tomorrow, so dial in then. Rachel, again, Brian, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Yeah, always fun.
Thank you. You too.
Coming up, we have a sponsored conversation with Kim Henry, industrial hygienist from SAFE, that's State Accident Insurance Fund, to talk about what Portland businesses and employers need to do right now to get their teams ready for wildfire smoke season. Hey, Claudia here with Kim Henry, industrial hygienist from SAFE, that's the State Accident Insurance Fund. Kim, welcome to CityCast Portland. So good to have you. How's it going?
It's good. Going good. Thanks, Claudia.
Before we jump in, could you explain what SAFE is to somebody who has no idea? Like me, 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, SAFE. So SAFE Corporation, it's a not-for-profit state chartered. We provide prevention services and workers' comp claim services to Oregon employers.
Cool. So if I ever fall off my chair and land on my mic, I'll just give you guys a call.
Well, hopefully give us a call first so we prevent you from falling off your chair. How's that? That's even better. That's what we like to do.
Well, speaking of prevention, after such a dry winter, experts are warning that this could be a very tough wildfire season. And for Portland employers, they might think that smoke is annoying, but not that serious. How serious is it of a health risk to the workers?
It's very serious, actually. There's different people respond differently, depending on their their health condition as it is. But when you talk about kids in school or you talk about folks working out in the field who are going to be exposed to it all day long, for instance, these can be major impacts for sure for workers and employers, not to mention property damage for businesses and things like that. So yeah, it's a serious issue. And we're in that season right now where it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
I know a big reason you're here is to essentially bring awareness to wildfire smoke plans. And I was curious if you could share a real life example of a business that actually had one in place, which I got to be honest, this is the first time I've heard of such a thing. And how it actually made a difference for their staff.
I had a welding shop that actually, because they usually use a lot of outside air too, they'll have a big roll-up door and they'll be welding. They shut the roll-up door and kept trying to work for a little while. And then it got to a point where even that was not going to work. So they actually called it and had an early day that day. And they just knew they had to do that. So it depends on your business. It depends on what you can do to protect your workers. Sometimes you got to keep working out there too. So having N95 masks for folks to wear, making sure they wear those and that's not causing another issue, that's something else you can do.
Right. So a few things for employers to just already have in place would be masks and
a
game plan.
Yep.
Well, for Portland businesses who want to build such a plan, where do they get started?
Well, they could definitely go to SAFE at safe.com/prepare. There's basically 7 points that we talk about. So first of all, having some, we call them filtering face piece respirators. They're like the N95s that folks know about. Putting together a written plan and talking through that and identifying, who's going to actually make the call and then training your employees on that, and then having somebody monitoring the weather and the air quality index out there. Sometimes there's fixed air quality indexes. In Portland proper, you're going to have some air quality index air monitors out there that EPA has put out or DEQ has control over, and you can actually use that data to know when things are getting pretty bad out there, and then actually acting on that, depending on what the air quality is. Maybe it's 100 and you're just kind of monitoring things and it might be getting bad. But once it gets up over 200, 250, especially if it gets into the 300 to 500 level, then you actually start shutting things down or moving work or rescheduling things. If you've got outside workers, that's really key too. Just making sure that you've got a plan for those workers.
For sure.
And then if you've got field employees that are outside of town, and maybe they're agriculture workers or they're actually in vehicles, that you have a game plan for two-way communication and you know where they are at all times.
Awesome. Well, Kim, thank you so much for hanging out and giving us this important message, because honestly, it's one of those things where, working from home and mostly being an office worker most of my life, it's something you don't think about, but it's something we definitely have to consider here in Oregon. For anyone listening, if you want more tools and resources to help build your wildfire smoke plan, I'm thinking even for your own house, head over to saif.com/prepare. That's saif.com/prepare. Thank you so much for listening. And again, thank you for taking the time, Kim.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, rate it, leave us a good review, and don't forget you can support this show and get great perks like ad-free listening and invites to member-only events by becoming a CityCast Portland neighbor. Just visit membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.